Hello, everybody, and welcome back to On the Verge podcast, the conservative voice of Southern Oregon. And we appreciate everybody coming on, and thank you for coming and joining us again. We've now been doing this for a little over a year, and we're getting some good messages out there. So today is Tuesday, January 20th. We've got some great guests tonight that we're going to introduce here in just a minute. And again, we are a conservative talk show, so to speak, conservative podcast, and we're based out of Southern Oregon. We're highly concerned about Southern Oregon, rural Oregon. And as I say at the beginning of every one of my podcasts, that if you like what we have to say, please stick with us and listen to what we have to say. If you don't like what we have to say, there's other podcasts. We have a great company down here, Little Mill Media, that can put it together for you, and you can do your own podcast and not have to watch mine. But if you do like what we have to say, thank you for joining us. And tonight we have a couple of sponsors as well. We have Bill Hagedorn Construction. He's still along with a sponsor. I know Andrea Williams will be coming back as one of our sponsors here shortly. And thankfully, David Brock Smith, Senator David Brock Smith, is also one of our newest sponsors to the show. So we appreciate all the help. The show isn't free. We have to pay for every episode that we do, which we are happy to do and happy to be part of this. So with that said, I want to introduce my guests tonight, and I'm going to start out with Danielle. Danielle, introduce us, if you would, introduce yourself to us, and what are you up to?
Well, I'm Danielle Bethel. I'm a sitting Marion County Commissioner, and I'm running for governor. And I think this is the third time I've been on your show, and I've enjoyed every second of conversation with you and your followers. So excited to be back tonight.
You should get a button for that.
A button for that. Yeah, we need to finish the mugs. We really appreciate you coming on. It's always great conversation. You know, one of the things I like the most about you, Danielle, is like, you take no crap from anybody. It's like I'll never forget I think this is the second time you were on. We had a troll, and I'm always kind of soft putting it, not putting them in their place. And Danielle gets a hold of them. And it's like, I would not want to piss that lady off. It was.
I think I did call him a troll or something.
and he or she or whatever that was, they earned it. So I thank you for that. Also joining us tonight, we have Nick Stark. And Nick, what is it you do?
Yeah, a lot. That's the short answer. So I'm the executive director of Oregon Freedom Coalition, and this is also my third time on. So I want that button too. And the mug you gave me, I unfortunately left in your studio the first time I was on. So I expect both of those things in the mail sometime soon.
I think it's in my camper now.
That's probably in Tim's camper. I still, after a year of doing this, I love this show. It's been kind of fun. I still haven't come up with a real catchy intro. I mean, I need to. We got to refine this thing and make it sound. Maybe at some point we'll be world famous. Who knows? But we are hitting over 1 million people over the course of it. We have our analytics say between 28 and 90 days we're hitting 1.2 million people. So that's pretty amazing, and we really, really appreciate the following. So also my host here, I guess you're my co-host, Trent Drake. And Trent, you've been with me, I think, on all but one podcast in the last year, and we do this every week. So
yeah, absolutely.
Trent, tell everybody what you do.
Well, I am the chair for the Douglas County Republican Central Committee, and I'm Virgil's campaign manager. And I'm just, that everyday average entrepreneur, do my own gig and have a good time doing it.
Kind of run interference for me.
I do, yeah, and I loved it. Somebody called me Virgil's pit bull the other day. I was like, oh yeah, it's awesome because I have pit bulls. It's like perfect.
Well, you are kind of a pit bull. That's okay. It is nice to have kind of the pulse of what's going on in the community. And one of the nice things about Douglas County, since you've been in office as the chair of the Republican Party, our Republican Party is now hitting on all cylinders. It's pulling together. More so than I've seen it since I've been part of the local central committee, and that's been, probably well over 10 years. It's nice to know that they're behind us now, and they're behind the commissioners, they're behind all the elected officials in Douglas County, and we're able to contribute to other counties as well and to other races as well. So, so thank you for all that you've done. Really appreciate it. So also tonight, we have a lot of topics to talk about. We're just about to go into session. We just came out of legislative days, so we have a pretty good idea now of what the bill load looks like going into session. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that tonight. Nick has some stuff he's going to bring up tonight too as well. He is really in tune with what's happening on the initiative petitions that are circulating out there right now. And I want to say one last thing before we kind of go into the topics. But that is, if you're watching tonight, please, by all means, ask questions. We are looking at comments. I'm not going to tell you that we're going to catch every single one because there's a lot of stuff comes in, and it's just myself and Trent trying to make sure that we do that. But please ask questions as we go, and we're happy to answer them if we can. So before we get into kind of meat and potatoes of tonight's show, I also want to acknowledge a couple things that have happened here recently locally. And number one, I want to start off with congratulating Commissioner Freeman on the O&C timber receipts.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, and Danielle, that probably affects your county as well, does it not?
Yeah, it's a really big deal. Marion County is one of the 15 timber counties that are part of O&C lands, and Commissioner Kevin Cameron actually fills that role for us, but my board's actively involved. And we have been, I've been a commissioner now 6 years, and there hasn't been a single month that has passed by that we haven't talked about the issues in natural resources and chasing the federal administration and getting these receipts back into the counties so we can support our rural communities. This is huge, huge, huge for us. I'm very excited. We're not as big as Douglas County when it comes to timber. So the impact for Douglas, which is a 50% general fund increase, is huge.
Yeah.
For me, it's like another $1 million a year, which is still a big deal. But I'm excited for Curry and Douglas counties specifically because they're going to make an impact on the systems they've had to lean up on because of a lack of funding.
Well, Commissioner Freeman was out at my house here last week. We were talking some politics, and as that had just happened, I think the day before, and I said, that might make the difference between having a full sheriff's department with law enforcement and not. And he absolutely agreed. He said, we were looking at making a lot of cuts, and he talked about the numbers that were going to be cut. And so you're right. This is a huge deal. So 75% of the timber cut dollars receipts coming in now will come back to the counties again, kind of like it used to be in the old days. And I realize our timber harvest is still down, and it's going to, that's an issue that we're not going to correct until we, although Trump is working on it, but we've got some issues there, but it's just an amazing improvement. So Nick, I don't know if that's something on your guys' radar or not. Probably not on Oregon Freedom Coalition's radar, but possibly because I know that you have some members, we do have some members of the coalition that have timber in their counties.
Yeah, well, and I live down here in Josephine County, just south of you guys, where that's going to affect us as well. I haven't, looked at specifically how that impacts our budget, but I can imagine it grows it significantly. Being the fiscal guy I am, I always say, great, better public funding and tax cuts. But that's not always the case, and I know that a lot of local governments are struggling right now, especially given just the stipulations and the chokehold and the restraints that the state puts on them to require them to fund a lot of things too. So very, very good thing that
environmentalists are going to come out of the woodwork to be pissed off about it because we actually are going to do something good for the community and the county. And I think it's going to bring about $8 million more dollars into Douglas County, is what I recall hearing, something in that neighborhood. But honestly, our commissioners, they take a lot of heat because of the local politicians in charge. But can you imagine if we didn't have a commissioner pushing for this type of thing? I mean, our county would have went bankrupt a long time ago had we not had commissioners that understood the assignment, frankly.
Right.
So,
well, and just to be like super transparent about O&C, maybe you said this, but Tim Freeman, I know he wants to be humble about his role, but he's the chair, the chosen chair by his colleagues across those counties, and he's led this effort. He has spent more time in Washington, D.C. on this particular topic than any other commissioner in the last 5 years. And he strategically worked with a federal lobbyist to create a media campaign last year that I believe got us to where we are today actually, I shouldn't say last year. During 2024, it was during the election cycle, we did a lot of media investment in DC to try to get the attention of both the current and future administrations. And it got him and the director of O&C counties to the administration's table early to be able to get where we are today, just a year into the new, presidential team. It's a big deal. Tim does great work.
Oh, he does. We talked. He and I talked a little bit about it the other day, and the whole process was super complicated. And of course, he's good at understanding that stuff. But yeah, he told me some of what he had to go through to get it done, and a lot of it was just a simple change in policy, change in paperwork, like a sentence, like one sentence in a law or something like that. And I looked at the numbers, how it was voted for in the House and in the Senate, and it wasn't completely 100%. Bipartisan, but it was almost probably 89%. And then I had to question, I didn't take the time to go back and look. I had to question the Democrats that voted against it. I was like, why would you vote against something that's so good for, rural Oregon? But then again, they're not necessarily from Oregon. I mean, this is the federal House and Senate, so it's a little different animal. And I didn't look to see how our Democrats, Wyden and Merkley, voted, and Hoyle, but I would not be surprised if they voted against it. So,
I think Hoyle voted for it,
I don't
is
know.
what I read on it.
Yeah, I don't want to assume, but
Yeah.
I think Nick's about ready to tell us.
See if I can find it first.
That's fine.
I think what's most important in this conversation is, of course, their vote, but also the fact that Senator Wyden sat on a substantial committee for a very long time and had a lot of power, and chose not to use that power to lean into rural counties across Oregon, and nor has Merkley. I mean, they shouldn't be let off the hook just because maybe they cast a vote that made sense in this current administration's policy book. They didn't do anything for 2 decades. That's substantial, and they have failed rural Oregon flat out.
Well, we can only hope that this will be the last time we see some of them for a while, and we end up with new representatives. I mean, I know there's a lot of political positioning going on right now because we're going into a campaign season. Well, we're in it, and we're going to be talking about that a little bit here in just a few minutes, Danielle, because I know you have some major stuff you want to talk about. While Nick's looking for that, I want to talk about one other thing. I also read a story today about, I think it was something that Cliff Bentz had talked about, and that's the cost of energy in Oregon.
Right.
And again, we have, and this kind of plays in a little bit into the climate protection plan, but we have Democrats, the majority, and again, I hate picking on Democrats because it's really not that easy. I'm just going to call it the majority party, would like to take out all the dams on all the rivers. I don't know why. I don't understand it. They have a reason, and it's all about climate protection and all this horse crap. They don't want to do nuclear because that would make sense, but they want to take the dams out, but they won't let us spot any gas power plants, and we can't, there's no alternatives. The only alternative they want is wind and solar, which neither one have developed yet. We've lost the federal subsidies on it, and neither one of those can handle a dark day or a non-windy day anyway. So I just, Cliff actually wrote an article about it and how bad it was for Oregon. I don't understand. I just don't get it. Danielle, comment on that if you would. Your feelings on it.
I have a lot of big feelings about it. I think that Oregon needs to really lean in on the nuclear side, especially since the state of Washington is. And Washington has gone so far left, you don't even know where they're at on the scale. If they can do it, why aren't we? The issue with energy in Oregon as a whole is so much more than just production. We're not even investing in the infrastructure to be able to produce energy down transmission lines if we could produce it. The fact that the Enviros, which is who is leading this effort that the majority party is leaning into, wants to take out hydropower across Oregon is troubling to me. The Willamette Basin is fed by 13 dams that all produce energy, and they are targeting them right now. In fact, Detroit Reservoir, which is in my county, is one of their biggest dams that they want to drain. And we have been fighting them since they drained Green Peter over the survivability of fish, but yet they killed over 100,000 fish when they drained Green Peter. I
saw that.
The level of ineptness that we have in the planning at the federal level that the state seems to want to support is really unfortunate. And they're only taking away investment as far as what types of energy. We have to have a diversification of energy systems across the state, precisely because of what you just said. I went on a tour last summer in July to the nuclear site in Washington with several of my peers because Rep. Levy organized a tour. And one of the things that I learned is that nuclear right now is the only energy source that's considered renewable in some places that can power on instantly, and on the high peak seasons, that's in the dead of winter and in the high heat of summer, to be able to provide a bit of a reprieve to some of the other systems that feed into the energy system. I really think that we need to have a greater Oregon type conversation around energy. Otherwise, we're going to be facing brownouts just like California in a year near you. I would say it's less than 10 years, but probably 5 if we don't really get to the table and start talking about it effectively right now.
Well, and that's what Congressman Bentz spoke. He basically spoke about the article. And also, I might mention too that I'm sure everybody's aware you've gone to smart meters. At least with most of the utility companies around, they've gone to smart meters on your house. So part of the master plan of the majority party is to manage how you use your electricity. So you will pay more in a peak time. So like if it's super hot outside and at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, they will charge you more money for that electricity than they would at different times of the day. So that's to get you to not use it and or to penalize you for using it. I really do believe this state is trying, even though it's not a written policy, I do believe they are trying to take over all the utilities in the state. If the state manages the power, the water, electricity, whatever, then the state can give that free electricity away to whoever they decide. They can subsidize whatever they want.
Can I just point out the obvious of that particular initiative? What I think is so odd to me is that the left says that they're the party of the people and that they're here to represent and take care of the people. But when they implement that kind of a policy, the greatest harm to the greatest population are the most vulnerable populations,
Yes.
People with disabilities, seniors, childcare operators. There's a whole list. They're not creating a conversation around how do we sustain comfort levels and safe levels of living for those populations. They can't already now afford their utility bills. We have a lot of people in my community that are suffering in this cold weather because they can't afford to turn their heat on because it's too expensive. I've heard the governor repeatedly say that she hears ratepayers and she's going to do something about it. But yet she fails to mention that she was the spearheader just 4 years ago on some policy through the legislature that rose the rates in general.
Well, she was the Speaker of the House for I think 9 years, and I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure it's 9 years. So probably the most dangerous person in our state government is the Speaker of the House, right? I mean, arguably, they direct traffic, and of course the governor works with them. But all of these policies and all of this failure that's happened, people say, well, Kotek's only been governor for 3 years. Well, technically, no. She has been in power for 13 years. And this is a result of that. And Nick, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Well, I should add that I found the results. All of our elected officials that we send to Congress, so the 2 senators and the 6 reps, they all voted for that bill. But Danielle, to your point, I would add too that there's been no real comprehensive study or discussion of the impact that the removal of the dams have environmentally. Right. That's the other piece that I think is largely ignored. You look at the Klamath River dams that were taken out, the 4 down here by me, and when you look at the collective that took them over and did the whole process to remove them and everything, they touted how they got permission from the federal, I forget what it's called, like the Federal Energy Commission to remove them because it was energy related. Like they had to have federal approval for that. Nowhere in there did it mention, hey, we got a waiver from the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, to contaminate water. And I mean, look at just the impact of drawdowns on Detroit Lake, in the contamination of Salem's water supply that happens from that. I can't imagine that there were fish that survived the contamination, coming down the Klamath River. So is it really that much better for the fish as the environmental left claims? The other thing is the regulatory costs. That's a lot of what's going into this, is that we've just made it way too expensive to actually maintain these dams. So the utility commissions don't want to actually, maintain them anymore. So there's a lot of federal and state stuff. Representative Deal actually ran a bill in the legislature this last year to protect the dams from this sort of removal process and everything. Just saying, hey, if we're gonna take these things offline, we're gonna take anything offline, we've got to have it replaceable with something that has equal baseload energy production. Things like nuclear, things like coal plants. I know that's a dirty word in this state, but we've got to make sure that we're keeping our baseload energy the same, so people aren't suffering because of it.
The fact that you mentioned the lack of environmental studies. So right now, in fact, just 2 weeks ago, I penned a letter to the Army Corps of Engineers about this particular subject, specifically about the Detroit Dam. The Marion County Board of Commissioners has been in the press a lot. In fact, OPB just read an article on us, I want to say yesterday, specifically on this subject, and the fact that they're not being required to operate and produce those specific environmental studies that the Endangered Species Act would actually require them in general to do, because it wasn't a part of the court order, which was very strategic on the environmental left's part.
Yeah.
So we've basically said to Army Corps, just FYI, the left isn't the only entity in this space that has standing for legal action, and we're prepared to take it if we have to protect not just Salem, who has substantial more money than any of the rural communities upstream. That infrastructure destruction will wipe out several large populations up the Highway 22, and we're just not going to sit down and let it happen.
Yeah.
It's crazy what this state has got. You're right, Nick, on the regulatory stuff. You can't afford as a municipality to run a dam, because of all of the hoops you got to jump through. It's just nuts. I want to touch on something else today that I don't know. You may or may not have heard me on Lars Larson today. I went on a show for about, I don't know, 5-6 minutes. But I'm going to just use the word. I was so pissed off today when I read the story about the James Baird Center in Portland. Anybody read that story? So,
no.
Yeah, so you're gonna love this. So I'm on the. What's that?
This is the market.
Like food court or whatever.
Yeah, it's a food court.
Yeah.
So it came through our Business and Economic Development Committee, which I sit on, and I'm gonna just tell you, it's basically a downtown flea market with some businesses that are going to serve food in it, and again, Rep Isidore, who is the Democrat rep for that district, is a great lady. I mean, I'm not going to cut her down. It was her pet project, which, okay, fine. But her ask in that committee was for $10 million of public taxpayer money to go toward building this or remodeling it. It's in the bottom of a building. And I argued against it. And I said, I get it. I understand why you would want to help Portland, kind of get back on its feet. This might be a good project. But the fact of the matter is, I got the city of Myrtle Creek that would like to have $3 million to put a new water tank in, and I can't get that. But you're telling me that it's okay to do $10 million to build a restaurant, and the state does not own the restaurant, nor does the municipality. It's just basically owned by whoever owns the building. Long story short, and this is the part about politics, and this is part of why we like to educate people on this talk show about how politics works. And is why it's so important to vote. Not because of Representative Isidore's actions, but because what happens is that bill got out of committee, and it squeaked out, but it got out of committee. I voted no in committee, and it went into the Christmas tree bill, which happens at the end of the session. Okay,
yep.
And this is something that I don't think people really understand. That Christmas tree bill is an omnibus bill, and all of the money for all of the districts, no matter what the project is that was approved to get to the House floor, goes through that bill. So when you're on the House floor, and that's usually the last bill they vote on of the session, or maybe the second to last bill, you have to vote yes or no. You can't vote yes for this and no for that. It's an omnibus bill, and all of those projects are in it. If you vote no, then it comes back on you because you just voted no on all of your asks and all of the stuff that you wanted, right? So it's a horrible place for a Republican to be. And actually, we have a lot of people that did vote no. And, frankly, I think I voted yes on the omnibus, but I'm not sure. Nick, you could probably tell me. I don't remember the bill number, but
yeah, was just look too. It's interesting you bring that up because there's been a lot of flack down here in Josephine County towards Senator Robinson and Representative Gunker for not getting their pieces of the pie into that bill.
Yeah.
And I would say that for a lot of us, a lot of you guys that are principled conservatives, that take no votes on a lot of these progressive priorities, you're not necessarily expecting that you're going to see your stuff come up at the very end because, I mean, you're hoping, but you don't really have that negotiating power unless you go roll over and vote yes on something that's one of their blatant priorities, right? And so, I think you guys get a lot of flack for, taking no votes and then not getting anything at the end of the day, when really it's frequently a scattershot of,
Well,
who they bring.
and Nick, let me say this. So within the omnibus bill, okay, was a $35 million for the veterans home here in Roseburg.
Mhm.
Right.
So I have a choice. I can vote no on that and look like I don't support veterans, or I can vote yes on the omnibus and give $10 million. Anyway, I didn't finish the story.
Yeah.
So we voted. It got through. The project, I believe it was supposed to be a $25 million project. So the state picked up the bill for $10 million, which that money is, to the best of my knowledge, has been spent. The project is now $15 million over budget and placed on hold because it's over budget. There's no more money to spend. So where's the accountability? At what point does the state go back and say, well, you just spent $10 million of taxpayer money. We own the building, or you pay us back, or whatever. I can tell you right now, if my SNS funds, if I went out and bought a, copy machine or something that was ridiculously priced, and because that's my ego got in the middle of it, you don't think I would be scrutinized? Oh yeah, I would be scrutinized. But
yeah,
this is the kind of garbage that happens with one party rule.
Yep. Well,
also, frankly, it happens just because every time a contract is written from a legislative perspective through the Department of Administrative Services, there's no accountability. It falls usually on the local government if there's any type of local partnership, but we don't have access to a lot of those details to know, not to mention the fact that we're not funded to do the state's work for them.
Right.
We could use the ARPA allocation as a primary example. I mean, DAS essentially set the legislature, in my opinion, up for failure because they didn't go through any of the federal mandates to tell legislators how they could allocate those funds. And yes, we were building a plane as we were flying it because it was all happening so fast. But there was a lot of legislators that allocated funding to their districts statewide that had to pull it back. DAS clawed it back, and then everybody had to go through a process again. Here, just in Marion County, because I was a part of this, when Brian Clem was in the legislature, he received ARPA money, and it took us almost 3 years to do this back and forth limbo. And only because he chose to partner with Marion County on his project did we get it done and executed on time and on budget. But if he would have gone a different route, the project never would have gotten done. It was for housing for veterans. And I don't know where that money would have went. I mean, essentially the federal government can claw it back, but there's just no real system of accountability at the state level to follow through on the checks and balances of any contract because they're too big and they don't partner locally like they should with local governments.
Yeah, and we had a comment here on our website or Facebook about the 300 million overspent or over budget on the Capitol building. Eric, you're not wrong. I think I personally thought it was more than 300 million, but I've watched. This is the first year I've ever of my 3 years in service that I'm actually seeing what the inside of our Capitol looks like, because it has been a torn up mess of construction and absolutely no sense of urgency whatsoever. And to the best of my knowledge, at least for the legislature, nobody's came back to us and said, hey, these guys missed the deadline, they missed the budget. And believe me, I have a front row seat of the work that's being done because it's been outside of my office for the last 3 years, and I can't even hear myself think because of all the jackhammers and the equipment and stuff. And there is no urgency going on in the construction of that Capitol building. And so if they're 300 million over, I think the initial budget was 750. So we're over $1 billion on a building that probably should have been torn down and maybe some pieces put in a museum somewhere. But that's a topic for another day.
Well, I'll share my sort of solution to fix this sort of thing. I don't know that I've necessarily seen a state do this, but I mean the one of the best examples I think out there is the I-5 widening near the Rose Quarter, right? That we appropriated money for in 2017, and that's why your gas taxes are now at 40 cents per gallon. Yes. And it was going to widen that, and there was going to be no congestion, and it's great. And when they started construction on that, it was sometime over the summer when they realized that they needed to do it and show that they were making progress, so that way they continue to get funding for something that's now, I think, 10 times at least its original budget.
Yeah.
And I think that what we ought to start doing as states, because this isn't just an Oregon specific problem, this happens all over the country in red states and blue states alike, is that you get this mentality of we're just going to appropriate funds and that'll cover it, and the construction starts happening, and then all of a sudden it's moving at a snail's pace, like we were talking about, and it's not done 10 years later. Now it's ballooned quite a bit in cost and everything. I think the solution to this is to start creating legislation that when you're doing these projects, you're setting some sort of timeline on. If it's not done by this time, then we're not fulfilling it. We're taking that money and we're clawing it back. We're giving it back to taxpayers in a rebate.
That's how the rest of the world works.
Yeah.
What was that?
I said that's how the rest of the world works. If an investor comes in and wants to build a hotel, they give a deadline, and the contractor meets the deadlines, or the contractor starts paying the bills.
Right. And
that can happen in government, because we do that in Marion County. I mean, right now we're overseeing $70 million in infrastructure projects. One of them happens to be up the San Diego Canyon, and we outlined in our contract very, very clearly, if your decision-making body is present and wants to be accountable to taxpayers, these things are easily done.
Well, that's because it's being ran by conservative commissioners. And I mean, I'll just be frank. I mean, there's no conservative views in the Capitol that makes sense to get listened to. And I'm going off on a tangent. Go ahead, Nick.
No, yeah, but I mean that's exactly how it should work. I mean, if you don't, and that's the result we get from all areas of government. I would say it's not just the ones that do the construction or the ones that are contracted to do the projects. It's all entities. I mean, they've got this mentality of spend it or lose it, and they waste it on things left and right. And so I think if we're not achieving the results, and that's part of the work I used to do with the American Legislative Exchange Council when I lived in DC and talking to a bunch of the states, is how can you do things to make your budget a lot more concise and efficient and effective, and how can you do that legislatively, and how can you do it in a way that protects the taxpayer above all? And it's scaling back and setting a lot of metrics for these agencies to start meeting these metrics and setting meaningful metrics, not just some BS, hey, look, we, magical, isn't it? Sort of deal. They're actually showing improvement, not just in the work that they do, but in the outcomes that they want as well.
Yeah. Well, hey, guys, I want to take just a real quick break here and acknowledge some of our sponsors. We're not running a commercial anymore, but we are. And I, unfortunately, somewhere in my paperwork for Bill Hagedorn Construction, I've lost my ad, but Trent has it. And I will vouch for Bill Hagedorn. He's a great guy, wonderful contractor. His wife is amazing. They work together. And with that, tell us about Bill Hagedorn.
All right. They were with us this weekend at kickoff.
That's true, at our kickoff event. And I should say thank you for everybody that came to that kickoff event. It's the best one I've ever had. I mean, so it was an amazing event. So many people. Yeah,
we had a good time. So Bill Hagedorn Construction, for all your construction needs, new additions, remodels, decks, fencing, flooring, and tile work, we have you covered. If you can't do it, we'll find someone who can. Check us out on Facebook and see some of our work today. Bill Hagedorn Construction, 541-817-3704.
There you go.
I did that especially for Bill Post. He said he was going to listen tonight. I used to work with him at the radio station.
Yeah, so Hagedorn Construction, Bill's great. He's done a lot of work around town. I know he just finished your bathroom remodels as well, and his wife, I think, does some of the work herself too, and it's a great husband and wife team. Also, I want to thank David Brock Smith, Senator David Brock Smith, I should say, who is our senator for this district. And, he is an amazing guy, too. I mean, he does a hell of a lot of work behind the scenes to help the district. He's probably more, maybe a better politician than me, because he's busier than me. It's like I working on stuff I don't even know about sometimes, and then he just kind of hits me up with it. I'm like, whoa, what the hell was that? You know what I mean?
He's a lot like Elvis. He's everywhere.
He's kind of everywhere. So we appreciate David, and I appreciate him sponsoring the program and helping us out. And since we touched on it too, I do want to mention again, thank you for everybody that came to my kickoff event. It's funny, as politicians, and Danielle, this, you're a politician as well. we get hammered in the background on social media. Social media is the death of our society, but we get hammered all the time on, oh yeah, you didn't do this or you did that. I had some a-hole basically saying, oh yeah, well, he didn't let anybody, or he didn't answer any questions. I'm like, it wasn't a questions and answer event. It was a kickoff. It was a time when a bunch of like-minded folks got together and we all talked about, everybody kind of they all talked about me, and I actually got a little emotional. I mean, it was very emotional. Some of the things that was said. I know our undersheriff, Brad Odell, he gave a speech that just holy cow. Yeah. I mean, it was a powerful speech, and it was just an amazing event. And I have thick skin, so I don't get bothered by jackwagons saying stupid things. But
too, we had.
I should say that, Red. That was coming next. The Adam Cafe in Glide.
Yeah.
They catered the food. And listen, I do these catered events all the time because part of the job, right? And saying we go to stuff. Seems like during session we're every night. I've never had food that good ever at a catered event. Yeah. It was amazing. If you don't know Jody and Jeff up there at the Adam Cafe, if you've never been there for, I think they serve breakfast and lunch and dinner, and they're not a sponsor of this program. I'm just telling you, they're awesome people.
Yeah.
So, and of course, everybody that pitched in to help to make that thing a success. So,
is that the same cafe that hosted the Christmas dinner?
No, actually, it was different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were great too. I mean, and
so far I have not been unhappy with the food I've eaten down in Douglas County, and I've been down there a lot in the last 6 months. So
and that's why I'm back in the gym.
So yeah, no kidding. and I also and I thanked her and her husband the other night. But my chief of staff, Jen Jasper, and her husband helped out. Of course, he donates her time, right? I mean, they don't get to spend a lot of time together. She's always running around the country with me. She put that whole event together.
Yep.
That all happened because of the work she did behind the scenes. All I did was show up. But literally, she had a menu to pick whatever the foods were, and she worked with Jody up there at the Adam to come up with the best selection.
Yeah, I tell you,
it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So, now that we're through all that, and I'm over the James Baird Center for now. I'm sure I'm going to catch holy hell for being on the Lars Larson show about that today. But you know what? That's politics. Whatever. Nick, I want to touch base real quick on the transportation tax referral. So where are we at that?
Oh boy. Well, it's headed to the ballot for now. Is the short answer. By the way, I've got for those of you who are interested, I've got on our website, OregonFreedom.com. You go up, you click articles, and I've got an article up there that is 6 things to watch in 2026. And I'm not going to talk about all of them tonight. We don't have enough time. But I am going to add in 2 that are very important that I forgot on that. So we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, with the referendum, I mean, you guys kind of know the story. We saw the tax increases. They tried to push them through in overwhelming opposition from the Oregon people. I think there was like 95% of testimony was in opposition to this dang thing. I love that picture that you've got the opposition stacked, a mile high, and the support is this thick. And there was a lot of public outcry against this, and we kind of figured that out and pretty early on, before it was even done with regular session. And when the governor called the special session, we knew that, or the emergency session, I guess, we knew it was going to be an uphill battle. We knew what some of the political tactics and games were going to be. We knew there was going to be a bill coming out of it. And so when they passed it, finally, after a month of emergency session, we knew she was going to sit on it. So we didn't just sit around and sit on our hands and go, hopefully we get to start collecting signatures soon. Which I think is traditionally what we've kind of done as a conservative movement in the state. And we've done kind of a scattershot approach to some of these initiative petitions. We didn't do any of that this time. We spent a month organizing coalitions of organizations and groups and individuals in this state, people who are actively involved in politics to people who are not involved in politics that wanted to help volunteer and collect. And you figure it's not just Republicans, it was Republicans, Libertarians, Constitution Party, even some Democrats, ODOT workers, Transportation Authority workers out there collecting and signing this petition. So we organized that. We ran a very centralized effort. We set a goal of 100,000. We're told you need $2 million, and you'll be lucky if you get it, even if you pay people to collect signatures. We had that 100,000 signatures in a week with all volunteers.
Yep.
10 days in, we were at 150,000. And when we turned our second batch in, so when we were done with the whole thing on December 30th, we had turned in 250,000 signatures. That's $250,000. It was like 3 times the goal or what we needed legally to qualify. And it just is it's an unprecedented, not just in our state, but I think in any states, just the ratio of signatures gathered to the population of Oregon. It's unprecedented how quickly we did that, how many we collected. All that to say, and I'll finally address your question here. It's headed to the ballot if it can actually make it through the legislative session. And that's the key thing that we're watching. Now, we saw the governor came out, I think 2 weeks ago, and said, hey, I'm going to encourage the legislature to repeal all of this. We've got to find a better solution. I think it's very tempting to view that as a success and a win. But the problem is that we specifically referred 4 pieces of the bill to the voters because there were some actually good things. I mean, just like we talked about with, how you play politics, there was actually some good things in that bill originally that we wanted to keep in place. Things like the fix to the weight mileage tax, things like the repeal of tolling, the audit of ODOT. I've been saying it a lot lately. Oregon's, instinct is to tax first and ask questions later. And that's exactly what they did here. They were planning to raise your taxes and then do the audit and ask questions later. And if the full bill is repealed, yes, the tax and fee increases go away, but we have no guarantee that those things are going to return in a new bill that's passed. Right. So there's a couple different options that the majority has. They can let it go to the ballot in November. They can move up the date of the election to the primaries or really any other date that they want to decrease voter turnout in the hopes that it'll be successful or successful their direction, I guess. And then there's the negotiation tactics, and it's either negotiate with the minority and get something across, or do what I think they'll end up doing and say they want to negotiate, and negotiate internally with their own caucus, and pass something that is palatable. I think if we get into that territory, we get what is probably the thing that I want so dearly and badly, and it's for them to negotiate within their own caucus to come up with new tax increases that they can do to fix the budget.
That'll help Danielle get into the office of governor.
Because it will boost our turnout in November. It will. I'll just do the whole thing over again. I can sleep. I can go without sleep for another 3 months. It's no big deal. But the other piece is that we'll put a recall petition in every single district for every single person that votes for that bill. Because it's like we made it clear 3 times last year. Do I need to do it a 4th? Do we need to make it clear a 4th? I mean, we'll recall you and oust you, and you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get reelected in November under that. So, anyways, that's
I look at it like this, Nick, and I want Danielle to comment on this. I mean, but I look at it like the governor gave the citizens of Oregon the middle finger when she called the special session to force this bill down our throats. Yeah. She gave us a second middle finger when she drug her feet on actually signing the bill, waiting till almost the end so that we didn't have much time to actually go out and get the signatures. And then the final middle finger was, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to go ahead and repeal it now because the Oregonians didn't want it. Yeah. Every single step of the way, the Oregonians didn't want it, but the majority party did. Every last one of them voted for it, plus one Republican that used to be a Republican that's no longer a Republican, voted yes on that bill. So I think everybody that voted yes should be gone.
I have never seen a majority party that is so out of touch with the people that they govern.
Well, they don't care.
As our progressive leadership has been out of touch with the Oregon people. And you're right, they don't care.
They don't care. And Danielle, let me just say one more thing. There's a new Democrat rep that replaced Hua Win. His name is his last name is Wise. I can't remember his Aaron, maybe, I don't know.
I'll find it.
Yeah. So he had a Zoom call with me here a couple weeks ago to present his bill that he's going to have in the short session. His bill in the short session is a new contract with anybody that would do a job that's state funded or state paid for has to check the box that says they will not support federal law enforcement. And if you don't check the box, you don't qualify for the state project that you're bidding on. And he literally said this to me, in technical words, on a Zoom call or a Teams call. And I'm like, I know you're new. Do you understand I'm a Republican? And he's like, well, yeah, but we think this is a really good bill. I said, dude, there isn't a chance on the planet that I'm going to stand behind your bill. In fact, I'm not sure it's even constitutional. And I said, put yourself in the position of one of those contractors. And if your beliefs were slightly different, what would you think? He did not care. He didn't give an ounce of crap about that. He is just, all he cares about was he hates Trump. Didn't care about what the Oregon people want. Anyway, sorry, I'm on a tangent again. Danielle.
Well,
please.
I can join your tangent on both of these things. So first of all, with Rep. Weiss, nice guy, by the way. I spent plenty of time with him in Portland recently and built a relationship just to see where he was coming from. And here's what I would say to his bill. How the hell are you going to enforce that? The state of Oregon literally cannot enforce a single freaking contract they have right now to hold accountability of any single dollar. So now they're somehow going to magically develop some accountability agency. That's bullshit. Like, give me a break. So he's the scapegoat because he's new. But to your point about the majority party being so out of touch, so I don't know how much of you just, want to scratch your eyes out when you read their press releases. But today, the Senate Majority Office pushed out the Oregon Thrives agenda from the Senate Democrats. They announced their 2026 priorities. And I'm going to list off just the first 5 bullet points that are going to make you want to just die. All of them are essentially saying, we don't care that we just saw 250,000 Oregonians say no more taxes on transportation, which means they don't want more taxes, period. Oregonians do not want more taxes. Like, get it through your head. But instead, they're going to triple, double, whatever down on increasing local taxes to make up for the fight that they're in with the federal administration. They word it within safeguarding essential services is how they start one of their bullet points. And of course, they tag every vulnerable population. But in order for them to do that, to be able to make up those dollars to keep funding services that the federal government says you cannot fund with federal taxpayer dollars, they're going to have to get it somewhere else, which means they're going to steal our money straight out of our income tax. And they're trying to create a sales tax, and they're trying to raise the cat tax and create a new business tax. Like, it is the most asinine, tone deaf body of humans I've ever experienced. And and it keeps going. I mean, they have somewhere near 20 bullet points where they're expanding access. And just to be clear, anytime a government says we're going to expand access, it means they need more money and they're going to take it from you, which is a fundamental unacceptable position that I have in general, just as an Oregonian. And none of it's going to get what they want because they haven't even done the real work to understand how their systems work. Nick said it earlier, like, they don't audit themselves. They steal your money today and then they hope for accountability later. They don't actually have a plan.
Well, it'll give Nick something to do.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could tell you, I'm sitting here looking at this in just utter disbelief and thinking we could do an hour-long podcast on each of these bullet points.
Yes.
And there's not enough me's in the world to write an article on each of these bullet points, but I'm sure I'll try sometime soon because this is a ridiculous press release here. You can't just slap thrives or prosperity or any, on these things and just ignore the reality that Oregon has been in a glut for the last 40 years. And I was telling somebody today, the Oregon economy struggles regardless of who's in office at the federal level for the last 4 decades. I mean, so sure, we've got some prosperity that comes in, given different federal level things, but it's really the federal government, or the federal economy, national economy pulling us up. Progressives have just gotten in the way for the last 4 decades.
It's clear. I mean, we have tax cuts coming from the federal government that are unprecedented, never been seen. Yeah. Some of the Trump administration, and we're talking about disconnecting from that as a state. The majority party. So here we have an opportunity to ride this airplane up into the sky and make all kinds of cool stuff happen. And no, we're going to go the other way because we don't like Donald Trump, evidently, or whatever the case may be. But it's like, this is the one time in history when Oregon could pull out of the tailspin. We're losing jobs by the thousands. We're losing businesses as fast as they can leave. And the majority party led by, and I got to say this, the governor's power is not absolute, but the fact is she does rule with an iron fist. So, she is the one talking to the Speaker of the House. She's the one talking to the President of the Senate. And they just seem to just bow to her. And there has been a time or two when I have seen them push back, but the reality of it is she sets the pace and they carry on the work. So
Well, they're all more worried about their next election than their next real outcome. They campaign on outcomes that they can never achieve them. Even the governor herself is falling short on outcomes that she claimed when she campaigned originally. And in this last year, she just re-upped the emergency order on homelessness.
Yep.
And for what? Yes, we need an emergency for the crisis she literally herself created in the legislature and has continued to compound as the governor. It's the most frustrating thing that I deal with on a daily basis as a local elected leader. And I have a list of things that I could just point out and be like, what the hell? It's easy to fix. I can do it locally with very small dollars. She just doesn't care. She doesn't. She has an agenda. She wants to execute her agenda, and it's at all cost.
Yeah. There's so many comments coming in right now. I wish I had more time. I mean, we're running out of time. We only have about 10 minutes left. But guys, we'll try to get back to you on your comments if it is a question. But I'm so thankful that our membership and our following has gotten to the point where it is. I do want to say some positive things. I'll think of them. I just don't know what they are.
Any positive things?
Well, the positive thing is this is short session, so we only have 35 days to run your life. We can't, as opposed to long session, we have 6 months to run your life. But I always say that. I mean, people ask, well, how's things? I said, well, we're not in session right now, so your life isn't going to get worse.
Yeah.
That's good. So I have had people ask me what bills that I'm running in this session, and we're only allowed 2 as legislators. But there's a lot of really bad committee bills that are in the works right now that there's so many I can't even really talk about all of them. But I only have a K-truck bill, which is trying to make K-truck street legal, which fits right into the Democrats' policy because a K-truck gets great, fuel mileage. It's a downsized. It's like a golf cart with an extra cylinder, and I think it'd be a great thing for Oregon to make those street legal. They will do the speed limit or whatever. So that's the only bill I'm really running. The other bill I had was a school mapping bill that has died in lobby land and unfortunately died after my deadline. So I can't run another bill. So I'm not very happy about that. But anyway,
I'd add to that too. The thing to keep an eye on with this session is what are the 2 bills per legislator that come out that are particularly dangerous, and even the ones that are good. But keep an eye, like you said, on the executive or on the committee bills that come out. Yes. The other piece is watch the amendments. There's this legislative mechanism that happens where they can amend bills, make them almost entirely new things. They were originally introduced as. So, you might get a bill that looks harmless at first, that suddenly gets amended to be something horrendous. And it's, not really talked about or anything. So watch the committee bills, watch the amendments too.
Yeah, it's a placeholder bill. A study bill generally is what they're called until the amendments show up, and the amendments show up in committee. And then the next thing you know, you have some kind of new tax bill that was never advertised that way. And the sad part about that is they don't have to really post it that way. So people don't even know to show up. And then all of a sudden, bam, 24-hour notice, you've got all of this crap that you're dealing with. And again, it's politics. And, that's part of this podcast. We want to teach people politics. I want everybody to walk away. I don't do this podcast for me. I do this podcast so that people have an opportunity to see how government really runs, right? And not just hear my opinion, it's our guest's opinion as well. But at the end of the day, if you don't participate, then you get what you're given. If you participate, at least you get a voice. And frankly, it would be great for our Republican Party if we start participating. I think everybody needs to go out and vote. We can talk about 1,000 things about that. But when we are winding down on our time, Danielle, you're running for governor. I think most people know that. I'd like to hear a little bit about your plans. When you're elected, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so I am running for governor, and as much as I would love for everyone to know, it is definitely not everyone yet. So we're working on the trail to get out into all the communities across the state. Everyone can look me up at daniellebethelforgovernor.com. So my plans are pretty simple. I want to return the concept of government decision-making at the state level back to the people. Government should be run from the bottom up, not the top down. The legislature has had to engage far too much in the functions of executive government because we've had inept leadership in that office for literally my entire career. It's not that difficult of a system. It's similar to the exact system that I oversee today as a county commissioner. And I wanted to scale up the successes that I've had as a county commissioner that focuses on everything we should see outcomes on: transportation, behavioral health, public safety. We can talk about food security. There's a variety of things that we don't get to talk about in the governor's office because the governor has historically come in with this agenda that's focused on creating all these new things. But we just need to focus on the things that Oregonians need most right now: safe communities, passable roads, healthy infrastructure. And I don't just mean energy. We need to talk about wastewater, water, wells. I mean, we fought off a lot of well bills during this last session that were horrendous.
Yes, we
And
did.
we need to create a balance in that leadership in that office to do a statewide representation, not just a Portland-based representation. I have had a lot of wins as a county commissioner, and I've had a lot of frustrations that have led to delayed successes because the state is so inept, and specifically because we don't have somebody going into the governor's office that just understands the fundamental function of being an executive of government. They always try to do some type of policy making, but we don't look at the real things. I also want to take away a lot of rulemaking from state agencies because the legislature has bypassed the people's voice by rulemaking. And we go every long session and look at, I'll use the Department of Energy. At least every long session, they're adding 30% more rules to their portfolio before they've completed 10% of their projects. The reason we don't have a good infrastructure base for industry and energy across the state is because the legislature and the governor's office won't even let the agency do their basic job. So I have a lot to say around all of this and a vision for how I believe it can function. And I'll tell you, a lot of it is based on my experience as a 6-year sitting county commissioner in the 5th largest county in the state.
It's amazing. I love your opinions on this thing. I think it's very important. Well, I want to ask you, I'm going to put you on the spot. You ready for this?
How about it?
You're elected, right? Day one of your office. What's the first thing you would do? And I'm assuming it would be an executive order. I know it would be for me, but what's the first thing you do? And you can think about that for a second if you need to.
I don't need to think about it. I already know. I'm going to undo every executive order Governor Kotek has done and look back into Governor Brown's executive orders. There's some sitting executive orders in the COVID era that Governor Brown implemented that are complete. Oh my gosh, I'm not even going to swear anymore on your show, but they're unacceptable. And I'm going to undo those. And I'm going to take away that overreaching dictator power authority that OHA was offered during the COVID era. They do not deserve the power they have. And I'm just going to carve it straight out of the agents. I got them like a shot here.
That reply got a whole bunch of hearts. So good job on that. I will tell you, and I've thought about that question myself. If I was running for governor, what's the very first thing I would do? Day one, I would fire every department head, every agency head, and every agency would take a 10% pay haircut across its budget all the way across. I am so done with the way our state has been ran by agencies, and that's just me. It's horrible, and it'll never change unless it's cleaned up. That's just me.
Can I just add just a little bit? I'm sorry, Trent, if you're going to jump in there. So on that agency thing, the agency head thing, I would just pause for a minute and say that, well, yes, there are a lot of inept agency directors, and I could give you 5 off the top of my head right now. Getting rid of them on day one sets you up for a bit of a challenge because first of all, most of them still want their job. Secondly, they know exactly where all the bodies are buried and where the dollars are hidden in all the closets and under the covers. And if they want to keep their freaking job, they're going to sit in front of me and tell me exactly what the roadmap to my success looks like via their survivability. And then if they can't deliver it, they can, hit the pavement.
Hey, you know what? That's the more reasonable approach, and that's why you're running for governor. So I'm just fed up. But thank you for that. Nick, we're running short on time now, so talk about Oregon Freedom Coalition and tell everybody what some closing thoughts for you.
Yeah, so the basic essence of Oregon Freedom is to build out the conservative movement in the state of Oregon, to really just push along a new Oregon that is, affordable, accountable, better educated, business friendly, healthy, and safe. That's our main goal: reclaiming our state, and pushing it towards those things that are really kind of an Oregon first type of thing. Biggest thing we need right now is for people to keep watching what we're doing and helping our mission, supporting our mission. So OregonFreedom.com. You can click on the donate button. We're just asking people, buy in for $5 a month, $10 a month, a coffee or two. It helps, helps me eat first off, but it helps to drive forward an organization and a machine and a movement that is building to push Oregon towards success and prosperity. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. OregonFreedom.com. You can also find us on social media. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, sir.
Can I ask you a question, Nick?
Yeah.
I know that you're never going to sleep in the next 40 days because of the short session, and I'm so grateful for you for that. When are you going to be putting out, or what's your schedule look like through the short session for followers to kind of engage where the organization is, I should say, over observing, so they can show up to engage in the process?
Yeah, that's a great question that I don't know that I fully thought through, because there's a whole lot going on, and I'm trying to figure out what are the priorities that we've got. We've also got some initiative petition stuff that we're gonna be discussing and hoping, hopefully helping to promote. The biggest thing is keep watching what we're doing on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We'll be alerting you to some of the big priorities, things that look like they're moving, opportunities to testify on things, weigh in, through our website, through, signing onto our sign-on letters, like I said, the testimony, but also emailing your elected officials. That's a big one. So we're going to set up some infrastructure. We'll have that going to alert you to what you need to be doing to stay engaged and help move our movement along.
Nick, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you as well. I want to give Trent a chance to say any last things before we sign off.
Oh, no, thanks, guys. I appreciate you guys coming in. It's always good to see you guys. And it's nice to hear younger people thinking right.
Nick, he looks like he's 14, but he's not.
I know.
Yeah. I shaved recently, and even when I had a beard, I still looked like a child. So
I just want to say one of the things is Oregon is waking up to the fact that we've had 4 years of this at the tax and spend at the national level, and look where it got us.
Yeah.
If we continue on in that fashion, look where we're going to go. I mean, it's not going to be pretty. We are not gaining more jobs in the state. We're not gaining more people in the state. It's going backwards. So it makes no sense as a business person why should we tax them more and make it harder? It's just going to push that number farther out the door.
Yeah, for sure.
So just vote the right way.
Can I add sorry.
Danielle?
Can I add just a small plug really quick for Let Them Paddle? So there's an initiative petition coming forward for folks like myself who are avid kayakers. I think it says Let Us Paddle. If you haven't, Representative, maybe you want to bring on Carrie Goodhart of that movement. She's an expert, and she can talk about how the state is stealing our money for stupid things like, taxing my kayak, because they say invasive species must come from the hood of my Suburban. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, everyone needs to sign it and get it on the ballot to get it gone, because it's dumb, along with a variety of other ones.
I'm sorry, Nick has a whole list of IPs that I didn't have a chance to get to tonight. Nick, if you got like 30 seconds, you could just run down real quick and just, I don't know, give us an IP number.
So I don't know. Oh gosh, I don't know that I have the IP numbers for everything. But I'm going to give you kind of just a rundown of what to look for and what to keep it. You can do a Google search for this. Just type in similar word, that sort of thing. So the first one is there's a potential estate tax elimination. I think it's actually already circulating. Super important. The estate tax is when you receive an inheritance, you're then taxed on that inheritance, and the threshold is actually really low. So you think like, Portland suburbs, or, just in Portland, if, your parents owned a townhome, they pass away, they pass it on to you. you have to pay taxes on the value of that. You probably don't have the money to do that if it's really valuable in the downtown Portland area. So that's one to keep an eye on, the estate tax elimination. The other one is let us paddle. Danielle talked about that already, so I won't double up. The other is no tolling. So the banning tolling without a voter approval. That's a constitutional amendment. It's got a little bit of a higher threshold. And then there's the Local Control Act and a few others that look very similar to it. That basically undoes the legislation that enshrined Boise versus Martin into state law, where there's a lot of like requirements on localities to be able to enforce anti-camping bans and whatnot. And this ballot or this initiative petition would undo that law and restore local control to localities to address a very local issue. Homelessness is a local issue best solved on the local level. Simple as that. And then there's the bad one that basically just it sounds good. It talks about like banning sexual abuse and all these sorts of things for animals and cruelty to animals and everything. And it sounds good on the surface the way that they market it, but really what it does is it bans things like breeding cattle. It bans the killing of cattle or really any livestock for the purposes of eating. So I think that one has a really damaging effect coming down the line on our food supply, what we can and can't do. It'll hurt a lot of farmers and cattlemen and ranchers. So it's really bad. It's deceptively sold. I think that's why it's got so many signatures. It looks like it's actually headed towards the ballot. And then the goal is just to hopefully kill it when it makes it. So yeah.
So thank you, Nick. And guys, there's so much more to talk about. I hope I can get both of you back on the show again. Danielle, we're rooting for you, of course. Nick, you are like the ringmaster of what's happening in behind the scenes, and I so appreciate you keeping us informed. So please, I hope both of you will come back on. I wish we had more time tonight. This show is rebroadcast on local radio, so we only get an hour time spot. We're a little bit over that now. But it'll probably have to be edited to make it to the radio station. But I'm going to close with that. And I want to say thank you to you guys again. And thank you, Trent, for helping host. And all of our followers, all the folks that joined us tonight, stay with us again. We'll be back every week. Next week might look a little different. We've got some stuff going on Tuesday night. But stay with us. Like us, follow us. We're on, I think, 13 different channels, as well as YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music. I mean, we're just everywhere. And ask those questions. I'm always available. You can email me, call me, text me. Trent's available. You can get it through to if you have a question or a concern, that's what we're here for. Danielle's running for governor. Thank you for sticking your neck out and doing that. That's tough work as well. And I'm sure she's happy to answer questions as well. And there's going to be so much more in the future. So with that said, again, thank you guys. And until next time, stay conservative and we will see you then. Thank you.
See ya.